Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how you can use vanilla JavaScript and CSS to write a function that would allow you to animate SVG logos or simple SVG images. It's actually quite easy. Let's get started. Step 1. Let's gather some logos to experiment on. A good place to find SVG logos is Wikimedia Commons. Okay, and now for step 2. Let's create a new directory for our experimental project. Open it in Visual Studio Code. Now let's create an index.html file, an index.js file, and a styles.css file. Okay, now let's go to our index.html, add the boilerplate. Now let's link our style sheet and add a script tag to link our index.js file. Now it's time to choose a logo from the logos we've downloaded earlier. How about we go with the Audi logo? In order to use it, we need to access the SVG code. So let's open it in our IDE. Okay, and now we need to copy the entire SVG element. So we start from the SVG tag and we make sure to select everything all the way till the closing tag. And then we go to our HTML file and let's create a div to contain our SVG element. Let's give it the ID SVG container and let's paste our SVG code. Okay, now let's preview our HTML page in our default browser, and here it is. How about we add some CSS styling to place our logo in the middle of the page. For the body, we're going to add display flex. We're going to justify content center and also align items center and height at 100 view height. Okay, now let's refresh our browser and see if it worked. Okay, now let's go to our index.js file and start defining our function. So function, how about we call it draw SVG. Okay, so in order to achieve this type of animation, we're going to need to select all the path elements within our SVG and apply CSS styling to the elements. So let's define the variable path elements to hold our paths, and let's get all the paths with document.query selector all path. And now we're going to iterate over all of our path elements using the forEach method. So let's add path and index as params. And the first thing we want to do is to get the path length of each path. So const path length equals path, and we're going to use the get total length method. In order to make it look like the shape is being drawn, we're going to use the stroke dasharray attribute, which is a CSS property that controls the pattern of dashes and gaps in the stroke of a path. Now we want to add the style stroke dasharray to each of our path elements. And in order to make it look like there is a continuous stroke that follows our path, we are going to equate it to our path length. And now we're going to apply another style property that's related to the stroke dasharray property, and it is the stroke dash offset. The dash offset property determines where the pattern starts along the path. And we want to set it to path length as well. Setting the stroke dash offset property to path length would make our path look like it's not there at all. It will be invisible. And since we only want the outline of the logo and not the fill, we are going to set the fill to none. So path.style.fill equals none. Okay, and since we want to manipulate the stroke while animating, when we set our CSS keyframes, we're going to also set the stroke to none for now. Okay, now it's time to define our animation, and we're going to do it in our index.js file, not in the styles.css, because we are going to use the path length variable in our animation definition. We're going to pass it in. All right, let's create a style element. So const style equals document dot create element style dot inner HTML equals. We will use backticks to start a template literal. At keyframes, let's call our animation draw. Okay, so draw from stroke dash offset, and we want to pass in the path length. Okay, so the first time I tried this, I passed in the path length and it worked, but it looked kind of funky. So I tried dividing it by 2 and it worked much better. But when you're writing your own function, you can play around with the values and see what works best for you. Okay, so to stroke dash offset 0, and let's append the style to our head element. So document.head append child style. Okay, super cool. So we have defined our drawing animation. Now let's apply it. But we want to make sure that our paths animations don't happen all at once. So in order to make sure that each path is drawn one at a time, we are going to use the setTimeOut global function. And the first thing we want to do is decide how long we want to wait between each animation. So let's set a variable and call it drawing time, and let's initialize it to path length times, let's say 0.01. Of course, we can adjust it later. And over here, we are going to pass in the drawing time, and we want to multiply it by the index. By multiplying the drawing time by the index, we make sure that we have one path animation at a time. Now let's apply the animation to our current path. So path.style.animation equals, and we're going to start a template literal, and we'll start it with draw. So draw, and we'll pass in drawing time seconds. We'll use the timing function isIn for now. And since we want our final animation to stay as is, we will add forwards. Okay, and now let's attend to our stroke color. So path dot style dot stroke equals black. And also let's apply stroke width. Path dot style dot stroke width equals 1. Now I think we should be good to go. So let's call our function. So draw SVG. Now let's go to our index.html file and preview in default browser. It works. It's animating. That's cool. Okay, and if we want to make it animate faster, we could change the drawing time. Maybe you can try multiplying by 0.01 this time. And there it is. It's much faster. Okay, and now let's try it with a different logo. How about we try a logo we haven't tried before? How about the Renault logo? Okay, let's open it in VS Code and let's copy the SVG whole code. Let's replace the code here. Okay, now let's preview. And it works as well. Cool. But some of the logo is not showing. To make sure that the whole logo is showing, we can add some styling to our SVG. Can make overflow visible in order to make the animation faster, so we don't have to wait so long to see if it worked. We can go back to our index.js and multiply the path length by a smaller number. So how about 0.0005 this time? Okay, and let's try making the stroke width 3. Let's preview. Nice. Okay, now this time, how about we try a more complicated logo? How about we try Ferrari? Let's open it in Visual Studio Code. And we need to select the SVG, only the SVG element from the starting SVG tag to the closing SVG tag. Okay, we copy it and we go back to our index.html and we want to replace this SVG element. Let's paste our Ferrari logo. Okay, now let's preview. It looks cool. But how about we make it bigger and also remove this red fill? Okay, so to make it bigger, we're going to go to our styles.css again. And we're going to add, so transform, scale. How about we make it 2 times bigger? Yeah, I think this looks good. Now we need to deal with this red tag. It is a rect element. Let's go back to our index.js file and we are going to get all the rect elements in our SVG. So let's put them in the variable rectangles and it will be document dot query selector all rect. Okay, and now to make sure that none of our rectangles have showing fills, we're going to loop through them. So rectangles dot forEach rectangle. Let's create an arrow function. Okay, and rectangle dot set attribute, and we want to set fill opacity to 0. Okay, let's see if it worked. Cool, but we can't see the outline that was here, the rectangle's outline. So in order to recover it, let's add a setTimeOut function like we did with our path, but inside our rectangles loop. Okay, so setTimeOut, and how about after 1 second we show the stroke. So it would be rectangle dot style dot stroke equals black. Let's refresh, and there it is. We can also change the stroke width to make it match the stroke width of the other paths. So we can make it 3. So our rectangle dot style dot stroke width equals 3. Alright guys, we've done it. We've created a function that would allow us to animate pretty much any logo. I've already experimented a bit with this function. I'm going to add the code repo link to the description so you can check it out and have fun with it. If you've enjoyed this video, I really hope you would like it, share it, and subscribe. As you might know, I'm a new content creator, and my goal for now is to reach 100 subscribers. So I would love it if you'd help me. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and see you next time.